Going back to the low carb stuff and trying to perform, I think there's a titration that needs to happen for each individual there to find out what works best for them. And what I love right now is there's a ton of studying going on around this fat adaptation piece with regard to more intense exercise right now. We're seeing these studies come out, and they'll continue to come out. I want to continue to watch that happen. I think it's fascinating. But to your point, like, look, if you're looking to build muscle and you're doing that in 3 days a week, you need to come to the gym with energy. Mm-hmm. You need to come to the gym with drive. And when you start to cut the carbohydrate out and remove the fat at the same time, you're going to notice that drive goes away.
So that would be my question as far as for individuals that are looking for performance. Why would you want to do keto? That would be my question to them.
Well,
why?
Again, there's some science or there's some studying going on that you could reach a level where your body becomes very efficient from the fat-adapted state, and that you could perform at the highest level. We're not there yet, but there's some stuff that's suggesting like, if you could stay here long enough, you may be able to do that. And when I mean long enough, like there's not been a study with enough people over enough time that was as controlled, is very hard to do. The same type of exercise, like what exercise do you choose? Like what defines intensity? Like you have to keep this controlled. So is it like on a bike ergometer, right? And that's how we're measuring it, because that's very limiting. Very limiting, right? Versus like a CrossFit workout, a CrossFit WOD, which is by definition varied, right? So there's so many different things that go into that. Like I'm lifting weights and creating intensity there, and running and doing gymnastics and plyometric work and whatever else, versus I'm on a stationary bike going nowhere, driving force into a crankset, into a flywheel that's being measured on a computer.
Yeah. No, I get that.
There's so many things there. But to your point, like, my body needs carbs. My body needs carbs in order to perform, right? Doesn't need carbs to lose weight. Doesn't need carbs to burn fat. But if I want to build and maintain muscle over the longer term, you're going to need carbohydrate. And by the way, you're going to want carbohydrate, at least for now, until they tell us, until we've proven differently. Again, that's my challenge with people removing major macronutrients from their diet, their dietary intake, not understanding the downstream consequence of this. We're just talking about performance. We've talked about hormone balance at the end of, plenty of times. When we see people getting into we talk about causation and correlation on the erythritol podcast. But when we look at this stuff, one of the things I recognize happens probably more, and this is anecdotal, I have no evidence other than my own experience with this, that those people that get involved in this type of eating style also wind up with a lot of times with a cortisol imbalance and a decrease in sex hormone, or let's say a sex hormone downregulation balance, which those two work hand in hand. Think about that.
Well, I mean, just as an example of that, keto approaches or low carb approaches have been recommended for women that have PCOS, and women that have PCOS have higher levels of androgens, higher levels of testosterone.
They need more estrogen.
And they've measured that this low carb or keto-ish approach lowers the testosterone levels in these women that have higher levels of testosterone. That is the purpose of what they're doing. That's a benefit to these women who have PCOS. So if it's lowering the testosterone in them, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, it's, again, the causation, correlation, those types of things to think about. So it's not hating on keto. Keto's awesome. Eating more low carb is very beneficial for so many people. Think about your use case. Go back to our triangle of awareness. Are you looking to perform? Are you looking specifically for aesthetic changes? Or are you looking for longevity? I think this style of eating, low carb keto, can fit into all of those things at certain stages. But I don't think, this is my personal opinion, this is something that you adopt and do all the time.
No.
And because of what we've already said, and also because it is so tough to maintain, particularly in society and Western culture. I mean, think about this. If you're one of those people that's like diehard and has been doing this for a long time, go to a social gathering, right? Where there's food and drinks and whatever and activities, whatever's going on, and look at the table of food or look at what's being served or what's even available on the menu, and trying to find something that sticks in that, that helps you maintain where you're at is very, very difficult.
Where's the cans of keto?
And then, and then you wind up being that person at the table, right? where you're ordering like, well, can you do this? Or
I can't eat that.
or whatever. Yeah, whatever. So
Modifying the menu.
I just think it's very tough for people to maintain to a point where failure the propensity for failure is extraordinarily high of all of the types of things, next to like a carnivore, which could be, very close related to this, or low carb, because you're not onboarding that type of stuff in that eating style or in that tribe. So that's another one of those ones where like, okay, you're just eating meat, right? That one's actually, I think, a little easier to do if you go run out to eat, but at the same time, things to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's not sustainable, and it doesn't have to be sustainable, and you don't need to, like you mentioned, it's not designed to be done for extended periods of time. You cycle in and out of ketosis or out of a very low carb approach, because in the short term, you can see weight loss benefits. You can see improvements in insulin sensitivity. You can see improvements in your A1C. All of these things have been demonstrated over 6 to maybe 12 months max. So you don't really, you can employ this approach and get effective results and then dip out of it.
Yep.
And cycle some carbs back in and then dip back into it and then dip. It's almost like periodization.
Oh, wow.
What?
It's novel, right?
It's almost like these things are, you're designed to cycle in and out of these things. It's not like I am keto and that is how I shall be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I got it tattooed on my lower lip.
Yeah, I'm wearing this badge of honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that those are very good points. I think